Hey everyone, it's your favorite doctor back with another food experiment. Today we're diving into one of summer's most beloved fruits, watermelon. It's sweet, it's juicy, it's refreshing, but the big question is, what does it do to our blood sugar? Is it a friend or foe, especially for those of us watching our glucose levels? Like people with diabetes or pre-diabetes? Let's find out. Watermelon has a reputation for being high in sugar, and its glycemic index is often cited as being quite high, around 72 to 80. Now, for those who don't know, the glycemic index, or GI, is a scale from 0 to 100 that ranks carbohydrates based on how quickly they cause blood sugar levels to rise after eating. High GI foods are digested and absorbed rapidly, leading to a quick spike in blood sugar. So, based on that number alone, you might think watermelon is a definite no-go. But hold on, it's not that simple. There's another, arguably more important metric we need to consider, the glycemic load, or GL. The glycemic load takes into account both the glycemic index and the actual amount of carbohydrates in a standard serving of the food. This gives us a much more practical and realistic picture of how a food will affect our blood sugar in the real world. Think about it this way. Watermelon is over 90% water, so even though the sugar it contains is absorbed quickly, there isn't a huge amount of it in a typical serving. The formula for glycemic load is the glycemic index multiplied by the grams of carbohydrates in a serving, divided by 100. A standard serving of watermelon, which is about 1 cup of diced fruit, or roughly 120 grams, contains about 10 grams of carbohydrates. So let's do the math. If we take a high-end GI of 80, multiply it by 10 grams of carbs, we get 800. Divide that by 100, and the glycemic load is just 8. For context, a glycemic load of 10 or less is considered low. A GL between 11 and 19 is medium, and 20 or more is high. So, a standard serving of watermelon actually has a low glycemic load. This means that, in moderation, it's unlikely to cause a massive blood sugar spike. But theory is one thing, and real-world data is another. That's why I'm here today with my continuous glucose monitor. I'm going to put this to the test myself. I've been fasting this morning, so my baseline blood sugar is stable. Let's check my current reading. Okay? My glucose is currently sitting at 88 milligrams per deciliter, a nice, healthy fasting level. Now for the main event, I have here a very generous portion of watermelon. This is about 300 grams, which is more than double a standard serving. This is probably the amount many people would eat in one sitting on a hot day. It's about 2 hefty slices. I'm going to eat all of this now, and then we'll track my blood sugar over the next 2 hours to see what happens. I'm curious to see if this larger portion will push my blood sugar into a higher range. Let's dig in. Okay, I've finished the watermelon. It was delicious and incredibly refreshing. Now, the waiting game begins. I'll be checking my glucose monitor periodically and will update you on the readings. We'll look for the peak, which usually occurs between 30 to 60 minutes after eating, and then we'll see how quickly my body brings it back down. This is the crucial part. Not just how high it goes, but how well your body manages the glucose response. All right, it's been about 30 minutes since I ate the watermelon. Let's take a look at the monitor. My blood sugar has risen to 115. That's a 27-point increase. It's a noticeable rise, but it's still well within the healthy, non-diabetic range. A post-meal reading under 140 is generally considered normal. So far, so good. No crazy spike yet. Let's check in again at the 60-minute mark. This is often where we see the peak, and wow, my glucose is now at 128. That's the peak for this experiment, a total rise of 40 points from my starting baseline of 88. For eating a large 300-gram portion of watermelon, A peak of 128 is actually very reasonable. It didn't push me over that 140 threshold, which is great. This demonstrates that even a larger than normal serving might be manageable for someone without insulin resistance. Now, let's see how my body recovers. We'll check again at the 90-minute and 2-hour marks. The recovery phase is just as important as the peak. A healthy metabolic system should be able to clear that glucose from the blood and bring it back down to baseline relatively quickly. Okay, we're at the 90-minute point. Let's see the number. My blood sugar has come down to 105. That's a great sign. It shows my insulin is doing its job, escorting the glucose out of the bloodstream and into my cells for energy. The recovery is well underway. And now for the final check-in, at the 2-hour mark. Let's look at the monitor. My blood sugar is back down to 92. That's almost exactly back to my starting point. This is a perfect example of a healthy glucose response. We had a gentle, controlled curve, not a sharp, jagged spike and crash. So, what's the verdict on watermelon? Based on this experiment, watermelon, even in a fairly large portion, is perfectly fine for someone with good metabolic health. The key takeaway is not to fear it because of its high glycemic index. The low carbohydrate density and resulting low glycemic load make it a much safer bet than you might think. Of course, there are a few important caveats. My results are my own. If you have type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, or insulin resistance, your response might be very different. Your blood sugar might go higher and take longer to come back down. That's why portion size is absolutely critical. Sticking to a standard 1-cup serving is a smart strategy. Another great tip is to pair your watermelon with a source of protein or healthy fat. Eating a handful of nuts, some Greek yogurt, or some cheese alongside your watermelon can help slow down the absorption of sugar and blunt the glucose response even further. This is a fantastic strategy for managing blood sugar with any fruit, not just watermelon. Plus, let's not forget all the other amazing benefits of watermelon. It's packed with vitamins A and C, potassium, and perhaps most importantly, lycopene. Lycopene is a powerful antioxidant that's linked to heart health, and watermelon is one of the richest sources you can find. And because it's over 90% water, it's incredibly hydrating, which is perfect for those hot summer months. So, to sum it all up, don't let the high glycemic index numbers scare you away from watermelon. Focus on the glycemic load, which tells a more complete story. For most people, watermelon can be enjoyed in moderation as part of a healthy diet, without wreaking havoc on blood sugar. Just be mindful of your portion sizes, and if you have blood sugar concerns, consider pairing it with a protein or fat. I hope this experiment was helpful and cleared up some of the confusion surrounding watermelon and blood sugar. It just goes to show that we can't always judge a food by a single number. Context is everything. What other foods would you like me to test? Let me know in the comments below. I love doing these experiments for you. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up, and do not forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you do not miss the next experiment. Thanks for watching and stay healthy.